Samantha Bennell disappeared on September 24th, 2005. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Samantha Bennell's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to her. A rebellious teen who's run away before suddenly vanishes far from home.
If we couldn't get her home, she was gonna end up something really bad.
Her fun night out with new friends turns into a nightmare.
You know, she left with them. She didn't come back with them. Where's she at? It was panic.
Investigators uncover frightening clues.
My concern was that somebody may have been chasing her.
Her mother begins an agonizing search through a shadowy world that leads to a shocking discovery.
It became my secret prison. I think that's maybe the worst thing I ever had to do. It was just heart-wrenching. My baby girl was missing, and I had to find her.
18-year-old Samantha Bennell and her 22-year-old boyfriend Chris work together on a magazine crew, a traveling group of young people who sell magazine subscriptions door to door.
We traveled around the United States. They would drop us off in different neighborhoods, basically just peddling magazines door to door. Sometimes it would be apartment buildings, condos, townhouses. As long as there was a door there, you knocked on it.
Samantha and Chris met just a few months earlier, in July.
You hit it off right from the start. She stood out to me. She had bright eyes. She was pretty bubbly. She always had something nice to say about people, and I really enjoyed that about her.
After growing up as a restless teen in Alaska, Samantha craved adventure. When she found the magazine crew job, it seemed like the perfect opportunity.
She had decided that she wanted to see the world. It was just, oh wow, you're gonna take me all over the country and I'm gonna get to see everything. If something sounded good to her, she'd just do it.
She was a free spirit. She enjoyed the thought of traveling the United States, meet new people, and get paid to do it. You know, it was awesome. We were all doing the same thing pretty much, you know, just all trying to escape something.
Even though Samantha and Chris loved traveling, working on the magazine crew became a grind. They leave their team in Sacramento, California.
They just kind of slave drove us. There was no excuses, you know. You didn't have your sales for the day. You were bumming off somebody else to eat. We just wanted to get off the road.
I got a phone call from Samantha and Chris, and they were stuck in Sacramento, California. They had enough money for one night in a motel room. I paid for a second night, and I did as I had always done. Where do you want to go? I'll buy you a plane ticket home. I'll buy you a bus ticket to your grandma's. I want you to come home, but if you won't come home, where will you go that you're safe?
Samantha tells her mom they want to go to Chris's parents' house near Claremont, California, about an hour east of Los Angeles.
I wouldn't send them unless they gave me Chris's parents' number and let me call and make sure that there was a place for them to go to.
After talking to Chris's mom, Mary buys the young couple bus tickets from Sacramento. Samantha gets in touch with Mary once they arrive.
Samantha called me, and it's like, Mom, I'm here, I'm safe, everything's okay. I love you, I'll call you later.
But it would be the last time Mary hears from her daughter before she disappears. Chris and Samantha stay with his family near Claremont, but things don't go as planned. Reluctantly, they decide to return to their old magazine crew.
I was hoping that my mom, she would let us stay there and it would be all right, but like that wasn't gonna happen. We decided that the only other way we were gonna be able to stay together is if we stayed on the magazine crew. And I asked my mom for bus money, or for tickets to get back up there.
As Samantha and Chris wait at the bus station to rejoin their old crew in Sacramento, a new opportunity arises. One that will impact their lives forever.
Two guys approached us and asked us if we wanted a job, and I already knew that they were going to try to get us on some kind of sales crew.
The couple is recruited to join a new magazine crew that's staying at a hotel next door. Samantha and Chris go to the hotel and hang out. waiting for the rest of the team to return from work.
We just wanted to wait for everybody to get back and see who we were going to be around. Who are these people, you know, you want to meet them. But everybody seemed pretty cool, and she ended up talking to a couple girls.
Samantha tells Chris that some of the crew members are going to the movies.
She asked if I wanted to go too. I said, you know, go ahead. I don't want to go. Have fun and, you know, be careful. See you when you get back. And I gave her a kiss, and she took off.
Several hours later, the crew returns to the hotel. What should have been a relaxing Saturday night suddenly takes an ominous turn. Samantha isn't with them.
At first, I didn't even know what to think. I was like, where the hell is she? You know, she left with them. She didn't come back with them. Where's she at? It was panic.
Desperate, Chris starts drilling the others.
I asked everybody, where the hell's Samantha at? And oh, she got up in the middle of the movie and she just ran out. She was crying. Okay, well, what else? You know, like, what else? And there was nothing else. They weren't telling me anything else. That's all that happened.
Chris hears the same story from several crew members who'd been at the movies, including a girl who'd been sitting near Samantha. Chris finds their lack of concern for Samantha troubling.
They just let her run out of the theater, and that always kind of struck a chord with me. It's like, who's like that, you know? I would have, like, tried to follow her and see what was going on with her. Just never added up to me.
He hadn't noticed any signs that Samantha was upset earlier in the evening at the hotel.
It was very surprising to me that she was in a happy mood when she left, and they're reporting to me that she got up crying, running out of the theater. It didn't make sense.
The crew members tell Chris they didn't see Samantha when the movie was over.
They said that they had gone, you know, upstairs and checked out if she was there or not, and she wasn't there. They didn't know her, so, I mean, maybe they thought she was back at the hotel. I don't know what they thought. They kind of just passed it off like it, nonchalantly, like it was nothing. And it made me mad.
Even though he's upset by their attitude, Chris believes what they're telling him is the truth.
I talked to one guy right there at the van as soon as they pulled up. But all the rest of the people, they all said the same thing.
Chris heads out to search for Samantha at the theater.
The guy that takes the tickets, I asked him if he had seen anybody running out of the movie theater. Looked like she was upset, and he said, no, I haven't seen anything like that. I searched around, you know, I searched the parking lot, you know, just looking around everywhere, and I didn't come up with anything.
Chris makes the hour-long walk back to the hotel. He doesn't see Samantha anywhere along the way.
I felt pretty helpless. I didn't even know if she knew how to get back to the hotel.
Back at the hotel, there's no sign of Samantha.
So I called her mom. I asked her if she had heard from her, and she said that she hadn't.
By this time, it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. Chris tells her the magazine crew's puzzling story. When Mary hears that Samantha seems to have run off, she tells Chris something he doesn't expect. Coming up, was Samantha hiding something from Chris?
I just remember thinking, like, how could she do that to me? How could she do it?
Samantha Bennell doesn't return from the movies. Her boyfriend Chris calls her mom in Alaska. What he learns is disturbing.
She told me that it wasn't unlike Samantha to just go off and do her own thing and not tell anybody where she's going. Basically, it sounded to me, you know, kind of like she probably took off on you, and she might be somewhere else with somebody else.
I was pretty sleepy when he woke me up. I think I mentioned to him that she'd had a boyfriend that was in a nearby city. She had run away so many times, anything got stressful or too hard. It was kind of her MO. If she didn't like what was happening, she'd leave. She'd go find something else.
Samantha's mom, Mary, recalls Samantha first acting out when she was about 13, after Mary and Samantha's stepfather moved the family to Palmer, Alaska, about an hour north of Anchorage.
Samantha kind of was withdrawn from the family, and there were a lot of arguments. She was angry with us for moving her. She tended to sneak out her window at night and go do what she wanted to do, party with her friends.
Mary saw a side of her daughter begin to fade away.
Samantha was extremely bright and made friends easily. When she'd walk into her room, she'd just light it up. She did extremely well in school when she wanted to.
Mary's attempts to get this former A student back on track seemed futile.
We'd sent her to counseling. Everything we attempted to do just seemed to backfire on us. She got bold enough where she'd just walk out the door and slam it in her face. She'd run away for a day or two, but we'd know where she was. One of her friends would call us and let us know where she was, or she'd call us and let us know where she was. I think Samantha felt like she was less than everybody else somehow. She really wanted to be part of the group so much that she tried drugs and she'd drink. And I think if it hadn't been for peer pressure, I don't think she'd have ever done those.
After about 3 years of trying to rein in Samantha's wild behavior, Mary says her 16-year-old daughter went to a treatment program.
It was just not quite the worst time in my life, but close.
But according to her mother, when Samantha came back, she began turning her life around.
We were talking and finally got to the point where the fight was over and my daughter was my friend again. She was attending night classes to finish her high school and working during the day. I envisioned my daughter actually having a future rather than ending up on the streets, hooked on drugs, running from everything and everybody. It was just like the end of this long, dark tunnel.
In March 2005, Samantha shared a new plan with her mother. She wanted to go to California with her roommate's brother.
I was a little worried about her going to California. She struggled so hard to get where she's at. She's doing good, but we couldn't really stop her.
Any fears Mary had began to ease once Samantha arrived in Southern California.
I'm hearing from her 2 or 3 times a week. He's taken her to the beach and he's taken her to the mountains. I could just hear the happy in her voice.
But by May, about 4 months before Samantha vanished, her calls to Mary became more sporadic.
We're lucky if we hear from her once every 3 weeks. And all of the same people that she'd been involved in drugs with were hearing from her almost daily. When we do get a phone call, it's just, "I'm okay, Mom," and I'm not hearing my happy girl anymore. I'm hearing the girl that I fought with that was on drugs, that something just wasn't right with. And I knew that if we couldn't get her home, she was gonna end up something really bad.
Then, in July, she joined the magazine crew where she met Chris. The night Samantha disappears, Chris is saddened to learn she has a habit of running off.
My girlfriend just left me, how would you feel, I just remember thinking like, how could she do that to me? How could she do it? After that, I was a little bit less frantic. I wasn't really thinking that she was in a whole lot of danger.
Chris tells Mary that he'll hang on to Samantha's things, which are still with him at the hotel.
There was definitely a spot where I hoped that she would come back. It just never happened.
About a week after Samantha disappears, Chris and the magazine crew head to Phoenix, their next destination.
After that, I didn't really have any contact with Samantha's mom at all. I did think about contacting her, but if she just left, then that's not even something that I want to think about. It's just a bad memory, my girlfriend leaving me.
In the days after she hears about Samantha running out of the movie theater, Mary is in an all-too-familiar limbo.
I'm thinking that I'll hear from her soon, needing money or a ticket or help of some kind.
At the time, she suspected that Samantha was running away or was displaying some of the same behavior that she had in the past.
Still, Mary can't help checking to see if Samantha's all right.
Over the next few days, Mary attempted to contact Chris's mother, but received only voicemail and didn't get any callbacks.
I called everybody on my phone list that I had for keeping track of her, that she kept in contact with regularly. I probably did that for every day for a week, and nobody had heard anything. She never stayed out of contact with everybody for a week. She might not have called me, but she never stayed out of contact.
As the days stretch on, Samantha's silence leaves Mary panicked. This begins to seem like more than her daughter's rebellious behavior. Finally, after nearly 2 weeks, Mary tries filing a missing persons report. Police in Alaska tell her to contact authorities in California. But Mary has no idea which precinct in California to contact, since she doesn't know where the theater or the hotel were.
The only thing I had to go on was Chris's mother's phone number.
After locating several precincts that might be in the area, Mary is told that an 18-year-old has the right to leave home without contact. Still, Mary keeps trying.
But if I didn't have a last known address, they couldn't take a missing persons report. And I gave him the phone number for Chris's mother, and they said, that's not our area. And I said, well, what area is it? I don't know, and they hung up on me.
Mary realizes she's alone in her search.
I always thought that, when somebody went missing, you went through your police department and they helped you. And I couldn't get any help.
So she turns to the only resource she has left, the internet.
I searched her credit history to see if if she'd applied for a job or, an apartment. Information about human trafficking, doing everything I can to try to find any kind of hint of her.
It's been 2 months since Samantha Bunnell disappeared. As the holidays approach, Mary hopes she'll be hearing from her daughter any day now.
Samantha never let a holiday go by without calling. And she never, ever missed sending her Aunt Liz a Christmas card.
But Christmas comes and goes. No one hears from Samantha. As 2005 draws to an end, Mary's outlook is bleak.
I figured when she didn't call by Christmas that the only thing it could be is that she was in a position where she could not call. Somebody had abducted her or she had been trafficked. This wasn't Samantha being angry or using drugs. I knew something was really wrong.
Now that the holidays are over, and Samantha seems to have completely dropped out of contact, Mary shifts her online search to a darker focus.
By January, I don't think I'm searching anything but unidentified body websites. It became almost a nightly ritual. The DOE Network is the website that I looked on the most often.
The DOE Network, a volunteer-run website, has compiled a database with artist renderings of the unidentified dead. It includes details of when and where an unidentified body was found, anything that might help someone identify their missing loved one.
Searching it is just unbelievably horrible. The images that stay in your head, they're there forever and they don't go away.
Mary spends her nights searching for Samantha, scanning picture after picture.
I kept it kind of secret. I didn't want anybody to know that I was looking for my daughter's dead body. My husband thought that it wasn't healthy for me to be doing that. When my husband would go to sleep at night, I would slip out of bed and search the internet all night long, and when it was time for him to get up and go to work, I'd slip quietly into bed next to him, and when he'd go to work, I'd get what I had to done and back to searching the internet. It became my secret prison.
The grisly routine becomes Mary's only way to keep going.
My baby girl was missing, and I just didn't have a choice. I had to find her.
Four months after Mary learns her daughter has vanished, she gets another unexpected call. This time, it's from a detective in Hanahan, South Carolina, with a possible lead.
They had found Samantha's luggage.
Coming up, is Samantha in danger?
Inside the luggage was some of Samantha's clothing, along with male clothing.
Four months after Samantha Bunnell disappears, her mother Mary fears she may be dead. Then, Samantha's suitcase turns up in Hanahan, South Carolina, more than 2,000 miles from where she was last seen.
When they found her luggage and called me, I had this glimmer of hope that she was still alive.
The Hanahan detective tells Mary that a man spotted the suitcase sitting in his driveway, with no idea how it got there. When Hanahan investigators open the suitcase, what they find is disturbing.
Inside the luggage was some of Samantha's clothing, along with male clothing.
It was mostly men's clothes and baseball hats. There was a sweater of Samantha's that I had bought her, and one of Samantha's socks, but nothing else in the luggage was hers.
When Mary tells Hanahan detectives that Samantha has been missing for 4 months, they begin searching the area, hoping the 18-year-old might still be nearby. But by now, the lead seems to have gone cold.
No one had seen her. They even did a press release to see if anyone knew Samantha's whereabouts.
After about 3 weeks, Hanahan investigators find no trace of the girl who'd set out to see the world. But the detective handling Samantha's case does discover another way to help locate her.
When I told him how long it had been since we've heard from her, the first thing he did was scold me for not filing missing persons report. And I said, whoa, stop. I've tried to file a missing persons report. Nobody will take this report. And I don't know what to do. He said, I will make sure that this gets done. And he contacted the Alaska State Patrol, and he told them that if they wouldn't file the report, he would.
6 months after the September night that Samantha vanished, Alaska State Troopers finally file a missing persons report. It goes into a database called NCIC, the National Crime Information Center, making Samantha's record available to law enforcement nationwide.
I felt like I had help. Now, instead of just me looking, I've got hope that maybe if she's pulled over, they'll say, you're reported as being missing.
Authorities ask Mary for Samantha's identifying data, like fingerprints and dental records, to include with her missing persons report.
I think that's maybe the worst thing I ever had to do. It was just heart-wrenching. When you bring in dental x-rays, you know you're not looking for a live person, and a good chance you're not even looking for a whole body. You're maybe looking for just a piece of it.
Mary tells police they can find Samantha's fingerprints on file from when she'd run away from home years earlier. An entire year passes after Samantha's luggage turns up, and Mary gets no new information about her daughter's case. Her brief hope that the free-spirited 18-year-old might be found alive starts to fade. Once again, she begins obsessively poring over pictures on the Doe network.
It got to be the point where I was doing it even during the day. I wasn't hiding it as much.
One night, a face on her computer screen grabs Mary's attention.
I found a picture that kind of looked like Samantha. It looked like she could have been a sister or a cousin. I couldn't seem to get past the description of the clothing was exactly the type of clothing that Samantha wore.
The girl in the photo was found wearing a jogging suit. But when Mary reads the rest of the description, she realizes this probably isn't Samantha.
The shoes are size 7, Samantha's got size 5 feet. There were no freckles. And the composite drawing had perfectly straight hair, and Samantha had curly hair that she hated for as long as I can remember.
Mary also believes that the NCIC system should have beat her to this discovery.
Since they filed the missing persons report, it should have automatically matched.
The NCIC system compares data from missing persons reports, like age, gender, and date last seen, with records of the unidentified dead. If there's a match, investigators are alerted and can compare fingerprints, DNA, or dental x-rays.
So this couldn't be her. This couldn't be Samantha.
But Mary can't help coming back to the picture of this girl.
I'd end up looking back at this same picture every night. The date matches the same day that Samantha went missing. It's within hours of the time that I got the phone call.
Finally, Mary emails a link of the girl's description to someone else close to Samantha.
I emailed my sister, Liz, a copy of the picture. When Liz called me the next morning, she said, "I think it's her."
Coming up, has Mary finally found Samantha?
The first thing he told me is, "No, it's not going to be your daughter."
Almost 2 years after Samantha Bunnell never returned from the movies, her mother, Mary, wonders whether she's found a Jane Doe that might be her daughter. Mary gets up the courage to call the contact listed on the Doe Network page. She reaches David Van Norman, deputy coroner in San Bernardino County, California.
I told Mary that I didn't believe that this could be her daughter.
Van Norman says that for the past 19 months, the San Bernardino coroner's office has tried unsuccessfully to match 159 missing girls with this Jane Doe, number 1705.
He told me, "But we'll try to match it anyway."
Van Norman pulls up Samantha's NCIC record, looking for at least one of 3 crucial elements investigators use to rule out possible matches.
I'm standing at the place of death of some unidentified person, and I'm looking backwards in an attempt to understand where that person came from. There's only 3 ways to do that, and that's fingerprints, dental records, DNA. It all comes down to those.
Mary tells him Alaska authorities should have filed Samantha's fingerprints and dental records with her missing persons report. But when Van Norman pulls up Samantha's NCIC record, it lists no fingerprints or dental records on file. He contacts Anchorage authorities and learns that Samantha's fingerprints had been destroyed years earlier, after she had run away and returned to her parents' house back in Palmer, Alaska. He then asks investigators in Palmer for the dental records Mary says she'd brought in a year earlier. But after a couple of days, Van Norman still doesn't have them. Mary grows desperate, waiting for the x-rays to get to him.
I finally couldn't stand it anymore, not knowing whether it was Samantha's picture or not. It's the absolute worst time in my entire life.
Finally, Mary goes back to the dentist's office. After 19 months of sleepless nights searching for her daughter, Mary sends a scan of the x-rays in an email to Van Norman. The morning after Van Norman forwards Samantha's dental records to the forensic dentist to match against Jane Doe 1705, Van Norman gets an email with the results.
When I opened the email, the identity had been confirmed. Jane Doe 17 was Samantha Bunnell. I immediately contacted Mary Weir and confirmed the identity of Jane Doe 17 as her daughter.
I remember crying, and I was crying so hard I was shaking. I felt sad and relieved at the same time. At least now I knew where she was.
I have to think what took 19 months to make this identification. What else could we have done to make the identification faster?
Van Norman recalls telling Mary why initially he was skeptical this Jane Doe could have been her daughter.
Samantha Bunnell, according to the NCIC record, was last seen on March 6, 2006, and that's 6 months after Jane Doe 17 had died. And Mary Weir said, that can't be right.
It turns out that even though Samantha went missing in September 2005, the date on her NCIC record says she was last seen March 6, 2006. Mary learns this date corresponds to the day she filed the missing persons report with police in Palmer, Alaska. The discovery is shocking.
There's no possible way that the match could have been made with the way they filed the missing persons report.
It was obvious that the person who entered Samantha Bunnell's missing persons NCIC record into the system did not understand the implications of entering March 6th, 06. If a person is alive and well sometime after a body is found, it will be ruled out and would never be compared because the inaccurate information, they were preventing her record from ever matching against Jane Doe 17's. What was critical in this particular instance was that Mary Weir started her own investigation.
At the time she was searching for Samantha, Mary never knew about the inaccurate date on Samantha's NCIC record. because it is only available to law enforcement personnel.
I did everything right. I did everything that they let me do. I did everything I could do. I filed the reports. I looked. I called, I begged, I pleaded for help. And I thought I had gotten it.
After almost 2 years, Mary finally learns why Samantha never returned from the movies that night.
I was working day shift, and it was reported to me that a young girl had been killed on the Interstate 10 freeway. She was struck by several vehicles and had been pronounced dead at the scene quite late in the evening, about 11:08.
When the girl's body was taken to the county morgue, no identifying information was found, so Van Norman gathered data to create an NCIC record for this Jane Doe, number 17 in the year 2005.
That would include her description, height, her weight, her eye color, fingerprints. It would also note the dental characteristics, which can then be compared against missing persons cases across the country.
Van Norman took photographs to create the drawing that Mary eventually saw on the Doe Network website. Samantha's picture was then distributed to the media. Tragically, since it only appeared in local media, Mary in Alaska never had a chance to see her daughter's face in the news.
Frankly, I was stunned as days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months that Jane Doe 17 was not identified. We did not believe that Jane Doe 17 was a transient because her clothing was clean, she was well nourished. This is a person who has a family, and so as the case continued on and match after match was ruled out, we were amazed.
Van Norman kept Samantha's body from being buried longer than usual, confident this young girl's family would soon find her. Once Samantha is identified, Van Norman recommends an investigation into her death due to suspicious circumstances.
The fact that she was found on the freeway in a place that a pedestrian really shouldn't have been.
Witnesses report Samantha running in the middle of the freeway when she was struck by several vehicles. And there's another troubling detail.
Her pockets had been turned out, as though someone had gone through them. My concern was that somebody may have been chasing her across the freeway and removed something from her pockets that either could have identified her or identified them.
Coming up, investigators unravel the moments before Samantha was killed. After almost 2 years, Samantha Bunnell's body is finally identified. The California Highway Patrol launches an investigation into her death. Was she the victim of a crime?
Her pockets were found turned inside out, suggesting maybe somebody had gone through her pockets after she'd been hit. It was unusual why Samantha was out on the freeway. Was somebody out there with her? Was somebody chasing her?
Sergeant Chris Fisher from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office investigates Samantha's unusual death. The driver who first hit Samantha recalled the frightening moment of impact.
He was traveling about 70 miles an hour, and in the blink of an eye, he saw a female running into the freeway. He said that he tried to avoid hitting her by turning to the left, but heard a thump and believes he struck her on the front right portion of his vehicle.
Detectives learn that he and other drivers couldn't have avoided hitting the 18-year-old.
Based on witness statements, Samantha was running with the flow of traffic in the center divider, and then she ran directly into traffic.
Sergeant Fisher hears a particularly disturbing detail from a driver who spotted Samantha just moments before she was hit.
One witness remembered seeing Samantha running with a blank stare on her face, almost as if she was out of it, not looking towards the vehicle that were coming at her.
Investigators question how Samantha ended up in the middle of the I-10, one of Southern California's busiest freeways.
One way, obviously, would be to run and dodge vehicles. She could get on from an on-ramp. It's possible that she was in a vehicle and dropped off on the freeway or in the center divider.
But When Sergeant Fisher interviews drivers who stopped at the tragic scene, he gets no leads.
No one witnessed her running from the side of the freeway to the center divider. They didn't see anybody chasing her, they didn't see anybody with her, didn't see what she was running from or where she was running to.
When Sergeant Fisher speaks to the first responders, they tell him Samantha's pockets could have been turned inside out from the force of impact.
It's not uncommon for pedestrians that are hit by vehicles to have their clothing disarray, sometimes even torn off.
Detectives investigate other explanations for Samantha's dangerous behavior that night.
I wanted to know the reason why somebody would run into traffic. Whether it was they were under the influence of alcohol or narcotics and didn't know what they were doing. Were they possibly trying to kill themselves?
Sergeant Fisher reviews Samantha's autopsy toxicology report for possible clues. What he learns seems significant.
She was under the influence of alcohol, had trace amounts of amphetamine and cannabis in her system.
When David Van Norman read the toxicology results, he didn't consider these drug and alcohol levels high enough to be a factor in her death. Investigators locate Chris, living in Missouri. They don't tell him that Samantha is dead, believing it might influence his answers. According to Chris, Samantha's substance abuse demons didn't follow her while they were together.
I know that she had experimented with methamphetamine. She never told me that, it was like a major habit. I had never known anything that she did other than smoke weed and take a drink. But she didn't do that every day.
When speaking with Samantha's mother, Mary, Sergeant Fisher learns that the rebellious 18-year-old had taken antidepressants. But by the time Samantha left for California in March 2005, Mary believes Samantha had stopped taking her medication. Still, Mary doesn't think depression led her daughter to run in front of traffic.
I don't think she got on to the center of that freeway of her own free will.
Chris also doesn't believe depression would have contributed to her death.
She never came across as depressed to me. She would have moments where she would be like solemn, and it wasn't real often. Most of the time she was in a good mood.
Sergeant Fisher probes deeper into Samantha's frame of mind that night.
I asked Chris if they had any type of disagreement or argument before she went to the movie theater, and he said that they did not.
The homicide team works to piece together Samantha's last night. Sergeant Fisher locates a movie theater about a mile from where she was killed. But now, 2 years later, no one at the theater recalls seeing Samantha run out that night.
We don't even know for sure if she was there.
With no clear leads from Samantha's last night, investigators hope Chris can help explain another mysterious clue in her case. Still not revealing that Samantha was killed, Sergeant Fisher shows him a photo of the suitcase found in South Carolina, as well as its contents.
There were my clothes in there. I'd collect like sports hats, like a baseball cap in every different town we went to. Some of my jeans were in there.
Chris recalls the last time he had the luggage, shortly after Samantha disappeared.
In between Phoenix, Arizona, and Albuquerque, New Mexico, my luggage got stolen, along with her stuff.
Finally, Sergeant Fisher tells Chris the real reason Samantha never returned that night, almost 2 years ago.
My heart just sank. It's because I cared about her. That shouldn't happen to anybody, but especially not Samantha. I just wish I had never let her go with people I didn't know, people that she didn't really know. If I'd have just told her not to go, then none of this would have happened. I just don't feel like I did my job as a boyfriend. Like, I feel like I let her mom down just to protect her daughter, just to be there, and I always was, and that time I wasn't. And I do want her mom to know that I'm sorry.
After speaking with Chris and examining all the other information, Sergeant Fisher concludes his investigation.
I do not believe that there was foul play involved. There was nothing to suggest that anyone had anything to do with Samantha's death.
But Mary is haunted by questions about what could have led Samantha into such a treacherous spot.
I think Samantha was in some kind of trouble that night. Somebody may have been making a drug deal and thought she had drugs in her pocket. I don't know whether the magazine sales group got in a fight with her and pushed her out in the middle of the freeway, or if some stranger picked her up and she jumped out of the car.
Meanwhile, Samantha's case has motivated Van Norman to educate families and law enforcement about the need for identifier records like fingerprints, dental records, and DNA to make even more matches.
Just the idea, the image of Mary sitting there at night in the glare of a computer screen and seeing these images, some of which are just awful. Somehow, I knew that this is why we do what it is that we do. There are thousands of mothers who wonder what happened to their children. Every one of those unidentified persons has a name that I don't know, but that I'm going to make it my mission in life to try to send home. Mary. Oh, it's such an honor to finally be with you.
Now, Mary works as an advocate, helping other families find their missing loved ones, and working with law enforcement to create new policies and training in reporting missing persons.
What's great is you're turning this tragedy into a message.
I couldn't sit and do nothing. My message for the families is be proactive. It just breaks my heart to think of all of these bodies out there that they have families, they have names. She wasn't Jane Doe number 17. She was my daughter. And she was beautiful and vibrant and full of life. Hundreds of thousands of families that are living in the pain that I lived in. And it's got to be stopped. That's the only thing that gives me the strength to even get out of bed some days. It's what Samantha would want me to do. She would not want me to let her death just be it.
Tony Lee Sharpless disappeared on Sunday, August 23, 2009. When a person disappears without a trace, often the most critical information is hidden in their actions and words from the days before they vanished. Tony Lee Sharpless's last known whereabouts may hold the clues to what happened to her. A nurse and mother struggles to put her demons behind her.
She's trying to further her education. She has a daughter to come home to.
When a night on the town brings unforeseen consequences,
that's when the situation just turned crazy.
Tony Lee Sharpless drives into the night.
I keep thinking, is she okay? Is she in her right mind? Because I don't know where she's at.
But where has she gone?
They did locate a number of cars under the water there.
Or is she being held against her will?
I got a flash, and I yelled at the television. She's very much alive.
It's summer 2009. 29-year-old Tony Lee Sharpless is working at Lancaster General Hospital in Pennsylvania. Tony is a nurse, specializing in infectious diseases. She enjoys working as a caretaker immensely, despite the long hours and challenges of the job.
She loved nursing, loved it. I think she liked the challenge of figuring out what was wrong with people and helping them and then seeing them get back on their feet. And she made a lot of friends, patients and other nurses.
When Tony is not at work, she spends most of her time at home, caring for her 12-year-old daughter. Tony became a mother when she was 17 years old. She has always been extremely devoted to raising her child.
When Tony got pregnant, we never really discussed whether she was too young or not. She just said she wanted to keep this child, and she said, I will do anything that I have to do to support this child.
Between being a mother and working full-time, Tony keeps very busy. But Tony didn't always have such a good handle on things.
The first time that Tony had a breakdown, she was approximately 19 years old, 19 or 20. She called me at home. She said, I can't stop crying, Mom. I don't know what's wrong with me. And that's when the first time she had went into the hospital.
Over the next several years, Tony is repeatedly hospitalized. But the doctors are unable to diagnose her condition.
When she would have the crying spells, it could last a day, maybe 3. It was very hard for me as a parent to see her going through this, and I didn't know what to do. She would drink occasionally. I think that was to self-medicate. There was one incident where she totaled her car. After that accident, she was adamant. She said, I will never do that again.
In 2004, during another hospital stay, the source of Tony's problems is finally identified. She is suffering from a bipolar disorder. With a diagnosis in hand, Tony is prescribed medication and she begins to take control of her life. In 2005, she enrolls in nursing school, and she and her daughter move in with her parents in Downingtown, Pennsylvania.
She was working full-time and going to school full-time. She was very determined. If she wanted something, she set a goal, she went for it, and she made sure she completed it.
Tony finds work immediately upon graduation. It seems her darkest days are behind her, until again, she has another relapse.
In March of 2009, she was having like manic attacks and depression. Manic is where the person doesn't sleep. They just constantly go, 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 and they just talk, talk, talk. And then they start to imagine things because they're not getting this proper sleep that they should be getting.
Tony asks her family to take her to a rehabilitation center where she can be treated for her psychiatric problems. Crystal Johns, an old friend of Tony's from high school, also accompanies her.
When I took her to the rehab, I didn't recognize that person. That wasn't a person I was familiar with.
Tony stays at the hospital for 3 weeks, but when she is released, Tony has a new prescription and appears much improved.
Tony's behavior was like night and day from the day that I took her in to literally just a couple weeks later when she came out. You could tell whatever they did in there with the therapy and the proper medication definitely was going to be a huge help for her.
I think that she felt that the doctors had finally got it right. I felt very relieved because I thought, well, now she's on the right track and hopefully this will, stay the same for a long period of time. She was like a whole new person.
But Tony's new treatment plans require some hard changes in her lifestyle.
Because she did like to drink, and you're not supposed to drink on that kind of medication. So in order to avoid going in those types of places, I would just do things with her that were different, that didn't involve that.
Six months after being released from rehab, Tony is back at work. On the morning of Saturday, August 22nd, she finishes a night shift at Lancaster General and stops by her sister Candy's house on her way home.
She came to my house that morning, right off of work. She helped me clean and spent some time with my kids. We sat outside on my front porch and was talking for a while. She ended up leaving to go pick up her daughter, get showered and ready. We were all going to go shopping.
Her friend Crystal joins them. She hasn't seen Tony since the night she took her to the hospital.
She seemed like she was back on the ball. She seemed like the Tony I know. Or like I would call her sister Tone Bone. She seemed like the Tone Bone we knew. Like nothing was ever wrong.
The women spend the entire day together catching up. As the evening approaches, Crystal invites Tony to go out with her that night.
While we were shopping, I received a phone call from a friend of mine, Matt Green, and he said he was in the area and would I like to hang out later on that evening? Which I then asked Tony, would you like to join me? Because I wanted to spend time with her as well.
Although Tony hasn't slept since she worked the night before, she excitedly accepts Crystal's invitation.
Oh, she never went to sleep right away, and if she knew she was going to be off that night, she would stay up all day long and then go to sleep that night. She goes, I haven't been out in a long time. So she got dressed, got ready to go, and as she was leaving, she gave me a hug and a kiss.
Her sister Candy is also invited, but she declines the invitation and can't help but feel some concern for her sister.
I was kind of surprised that she was going out because I knew that she was trying to steer clear of clubs, but I knew that she hadn't been out in months, like probably a good half a year at that point, to where, you know, she wanted to go out, have a good time, spend time with her friend, and just go dancing.
I spoke to Matt, and he said he was in Old City at the G Lounge, and we agreed to meet him there since it wasn't too far from where we were.
When Tony and Crystal arrive at the G Lounge, they receive special treatment. Crystal's friend Matt is the brother of Willie Green, a professional basketball player on the Philadelphia 76ers.
When we went to the G Lounge, we got into the VIP. We just had a couple of glasses of champagne and danced. Tony, she was on the dance floor more than I was. We mingled, we met a lot of people, a couple celebrities, and that was it. We had a good time. It was almost like the most perfect night ever. Almost.
As another round of drinks is ordered, Tony doesn't seem to have any trouble keeping up with the others.
We were definitely drinking Don P. I prefer Grey Goose and pineapple. We had a few of them. We took a couple shots the waitresses were bringing around. Tony, she just seemed great. We had such a good time, and that's all we kept talking about. That's how fun of a time we were having, and we didn't want it to end, and the time came too quick.
When the club closes at 2 a.m., Willie invites the group to his house in Gladwin, a suburb outside of Philadelphia.
And I discussed it with Tony, and she was like, yeah, because we weren't ready for the night to end, so we decided to go.
At Willie's house, the socializing continues with a drinking game and then a late-night dip in the swimming pool.
Everybody was outside but Tony. When I dove into the pool and I came up, they said, your girlfriend is in there yelling something. So I immediately went into the house and said, what's going on? And I didn't really understand what was wrong with her, but I could tell that her pupils were dilated and that she was very intoxicated. I don't know if it hit her at that moment, but it was definitely time to go. Her behavior had changed.
Crystal tries to calm her friend down, but it seems that a switch has been flipped. Tony becomes very aggressive.
Everybody else came in to see what the commotion was, and that's when the situation just turned crazy. Tony came out and said things and was yelling profanities, and she went inside Mr. Green's basement and slammed the door, kicked a chair, a couple different things. I never seen Tony act this way before. I was embarrassed. I didn't understand why she was acting like this. I didn't know how to handle the situation. I thought the best situation would be to leave.
Crystal says that Willie has also had enough. He asks the two women to go, but Tony insists on driving.
She grabbed the car keys and said, I'm driving. She was telling everybody it's her car and she was driving, and if I wanted to go home, that I would get in the car with her. They asked me, are you sure you want to get in the car with her? And I said, we came together, we leave together.
But once they are in the car, Crystal says that Tony becomes even more irate.
We got maybe 2 houses down the road, and she slammed on the brakes, and she said some things to me in reference that I was laughing with them. I just think the liquor kicked in, and she was just a little paranoid maybe. I don't know exactly what she was thinking at that point. I was confused. I was like, we're gonna go home and laugh about it tomorrow, you know? That's what I thought.
But Crystal is unable to calm Tony down. Tony orders her from the car, and Crystal finally gives in.
I just thought, let me get out the car. She'll come back for me.
As soon as Crystal steps outside, Tony speeds away into the darkness.
I never thought she wouldn't come back.
Coming up, what was happening to Tony that night?
The combination of everything may have been making her act not in her right mind.
After a long night out on the town, 29-year-old Tony Lee Sharpless seems to lose control. Her belligerent behavior gets her and her friend Crystal kicked out of a small gathering in Gladwin, Pennsylvania. Crystal is glad to be going home, but suddenly, Tony demands that she exit the car and speeds away.
She knew I didn't know these people, that we were so far from home, like 40 miles. Why would you leave me? I didn't think she was that upset, and especially not at me.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning. Crystal finds herself in an unfamiliar neighborhood a long way from home.
I could still see the guys from the party yelling for me to come back, and I was so embarrassed that I just put my hand up and said, I'm fine. I started walking towards the direction that she had went, thinking that she would come back for me. So then I called Tony's phone. She didn't answer, and I called again, and it was obvious that she had turned the phone off. It was scary, it was dark, there's no street lights, and I had no clue exactly where I was. I thought how angry I was. How could she leave me? I don't know. I just hoped that she was gonna come back for me. That was the initial feeling.
Crystal continues trying to reach Tony without luck while she walks to the expressway that they took to get there.
I sat on the side of the road, so if she came back, that I would just be sitting waiting for her. I was so far from the development that I left, I didn't even know what house I came out of. That's when the reality kicked in, and that's when I began to cry. I was scared. I was scared for my life.
Crystal is eventually able to reach a nephew who agrees to make the 40-minute drive to come pick her up. On the way home, Crystal tries calling Tony's sister Candy to tell her about their train wreck of a night.
When I got up in the morning and saw that I had missed texts and phone calls, voicemails from her, I'm like, okay, what's going on?
Candy is surprised to hear about Tony's strange behavior. She calls over to her parents' house to make sure her sister is all right. But Tony has not come home.
We thought, well, maybe her being so tired because she had stayed up so long would have pulled the car off the side of the road and taken a nap, but she would have called or texted myself, her sister, or her daughter, and she didn't do any of those.
Candy and Crystal are worried. They know that Tony hadn't slept for over 36 hours and had been drinking. They wonder if it's possible that Tony has had some sort of accident.
I called all the local prisons to see if she happened to get a DUI.
Check with hospitals, things of that nature, see if there was a car accident. Nothing all day. I had tried calling Tony, I had tried texting her, no response. And being a close-knit family, I know she would have called one of us by then. So now red flags are going up, something's wrong. Where's she at?
By nightfall, neither Candy nor Crystal has made any progress in finding Tony. Crystal can't bear it any longer and contacts the police.
I called the West Brandywine Police Station, spoke to Officer Moore. He informed me that usually a family member calls, and I said, well, her family doesn't want to jump the gun at this time, but something doesn't sit right with me. I was the last person with her. I want to know where she is.
Candy agrees to go down to the police station to file the missing persons report for her sister.
It was nerve-wracking to report her missing. I'm still at this point like, this isn't really happening. Like, I'm doing this for nothing, but if I don't do it and it really is an issue, I would feel terrible. So I just gotta file it to be on the safe side. That way we can get the word out and see what's going on.
As Officer Russell Moore takes down Tony's details, some of the information that Candy tells him gives him pause.
She did mention that Tony had had a couple cases of where she had attempted suicide, which did concern me that this could be another attempt.
Tony's family, however, stresses that Tony loves her life and has no reason to want to end it.
She's trying to further her education. She has a daughter to come home to. We're a very close family.
She was happy. She loved her job, and things were going good, and her medicine was working well, so she was very excited.
Still, Officer Moore wonders how the mix of alcohol with Tony's medication may have affected her.
There is some concern that the alcohol with the medication, as well as her mental health issues, the combination of everything may have been making her act not in her right mind.
Crystal is also worried. As she replays the last night over in her head, she realizes she has seen Tony in this condition once before.
The night reminded me of the time when we were checking her into rehab. She wasn't in the right state of mind. I know that Tony wasn't psychologically stable, that she had issues with that in the past, and, you know, maybe I should have kept a closer eye on her. Maybe I shouldn't have drunk with her, you know? But her family was aware we were going out. We went there before we left. Obviously, if we're going to a club, we're going to consume some alcohol. If that wasn't a good idea, I wish somebody would have told me. I would have babysat her more, you know? I would try to.
Officer Moore enters Tony's personal data and vehicle description into the National Crime Information Center database. He also contacts the Lower Merion Police Department, whose jurisdiction includes Gladwin, where Tony was last seen.
Typically, the car would have been the greatest link for us in an investigation like this. If anybody stopped that car, we would have been notified, and West Brandywine would have been notified.
But Tony's car seems to have vanished just as she has. Police turn next to Tony's phone records.
I called Tony's cell phone carrier. The last contact with the cell phone tower was at 4:53 in the morning. The cell phone tower itself services Lower Merion, where she went missing. After that, we cannot tell where she would have gone.
But Officer Moore is able to identify the last time Tony used her phone, 2:57 a.m., when Tony was leaving the nightclub and on her way to Willie Green's house. It's a text message from Tony to her daughter, who had contacted her mother when she could not fall asleep.
The last thing that came off of my daughter's, Tony's phone, was a text to her daughter at 3 o'clock in the morning, because her daughter couldn't sleep that night. Her mom said to her, "Honey, I'll be home soon, get some sleep." That was the last text, the last activity on that phone.
For Donna, Tony's last text message sounds more like the daughter she knows, a loving mother who is very responsible and caring. But everything else she learns about Tony's behavior that night leaves her baffled.
I couldn't believe it. I've never seen her act that way. Never. The only thing I could have thought was mixing alcohol with medication that she was on and lack of sleep.
With this in mind, Donna and her husband Peter begin driving the roads around the area where Tony was last seen.
I kept thinking, if she's that tired or if she's that out of it, she would have had to have wrecked that car. There's no way she could have made it home or anywhere else. We were looking for all kinds of signs, scraped guardrail. We were looking for like broken branches where a car might have went down, you know, in between trees and stuff. We were all over that area, but we couldn't find anything.
But when Donna and Peter study a map of the area, they are struck by something. Tony could have taken a wrong turn looking for the expressway entrance heading home.
Leaving Gladwin area, it only takes you into Philadelphia. You have to go off the next exit, turn around, and come back. So we thought, well, instead of that, we'll just go down under the bridge, and that's where the river happens to be. You make a sharp left, and then the park is off to the right. And that's what made me think, well, if she had pulled in there, she could have went right off the boat ramp and into the water.
"29-year-old nurse and mother Tony Lee Sharpless is missing. Overtired and operating under a dangerous mix of bipolar medication and alcohol, Tony was last seen in Gladwin, a suburb of Philadelphia that she is unfamiliar with. Her family fears that in her altered state, Tony may have driven into the Schuylkill River.
We decided the Schuylkill River needed to be searched because that was the closest place to Willie Green's home. If my daughter left there and went down to park the car, she could have went into the boat ramp because it was like approximately 5 o'clock in the morning. It was still dark. And when you're looking at water and a road and they run together, you can't tell the difference between the two of them.
When Tony's mother tells the police about her theory, they agree that the area can be very disorienting, especially at night.
Anybody who's not familiar with that section of the township, the Gladwin area, could very easily get turned around and lost, because while it is a residential area, it is heavily wooded. There's no sidewalks, and there's not a whole lot of street lights.
They also agree that the location is very isolated. If Tony had driven into the river, there would most certainly have been no witnesses.
The area is fairly desolate at night. The boat ramp is not meant to be used after sundown, so there is no reason for anybody to be down there.
However, the authorities feel that there is not enough probable cause to warrant a river search.
Our officers went down to the river and checked to see if there's any indication whatsoever of a vehicle going into the river, and we didn't find any.
Nevertheless, Texas EquiSearch, a nonprofit organization that conducts missing person searches, agrees to come to Pennsylvania to spearhead the operation. They scan the river bottom with sonar, while the Lower Merion Police Department joins the search.
The way the sonar system works is it's attached to a boat, and it scans through the water and actually takes photographs of items on the bottom of the river or on the riverbed.
As you go off the boat ramp, it gets very deep. It's about 25 feet deep as soon as you leave the boat ramp. So this is a fairly deep water operation there with very low visibility.
Despite the depth and murky water, sonar hits upon what looks like 3 cars at the bottom of the river.
We arranged for the Philadelphia dive unit to come out the next morning and to dive and to determine if they were vehicles and if they were involved, in this case, if they were in fact Tony's car.
While Donna is happy that the search is being conducted, she cannot bring herself to be there.
When they had said there were cars in there, my heart was pounding. I was home, pacing the floor. I was pacing the floor, my husband and I both.
Tony's sister Candy, however, is there, steeling herself for whatever they find.
It was kind of nerve-wracking because it was a lose-lose situation at that point. If she's in the river, then she's not alive anymore. If she's not in the river, then we still don't know what happened to her.
Before the dive team begins their work, investigators go over the river with a second, more advanced sonar. They discover much more than they had bargained for.
The total number of vehicles that were found in our section of the river was 11.
According to the police, the remoteness of the boat ramp makes it a popular spot to get rid of stolen and other unwanted vehicles.
What the dive team did was they went into the water there, and they would be able to, on a close-up view, take a look at the vehicles and get a basic description of them. In some cases, if there was a vehicle registration plate still attached, they would remove the plate and return it to us once they got out of the water. That's what happened in this case.
As the divers work to identify the sunken cars, Tony's loved ones wait on pins and needles on shore.
As they found the vehicles, they were letting me know that they weren't hers, but there were still 1 or 2 towards the end that they weren't for sure about, that they had to come back and double check on. The plan of action was to get them out of there, to get them identified for sure, because even if they pulled the tag off, what if the tag was changed at that point?
Candy must wait another week for her peace of mind. The weight of the water and silt collected in the submerged vehicles makes extracting them a tricky operation. A large tow truck with a boom extending over the water is needed to do the job.
Watching several cars being drug out of the river, every car was like, I hope it's not hers.
9 vehicles are eventually removed from the Schuylkill River, none of them belonging to Tony. Although her loved ones are relieved, the conclusion of the river search without any new information to Tony's whereabouts increases their fear.
When you have that special person in your life that's missing, you feel like you're in a black hole. You can't touch the sides. You're falling and falling. There's no bottom and there's no top. You can't see, but you just continue to fall and your heart just sinks.
Coming up, police turn their attention to the last person to have seen Toni.
Everybody was asking me about drugs and what drugs was she on, and I don't do drugs. And if she was on any drugs, I didn't know of them.
When Toni Lee Sharpless goes missing outside of Philadelphia, her loved ones are stunned. The 29-year-old nurse lives a simple life, devoted to her daughter. But by all reports, Toni behaved like a different person on the night she disappeared.
She wasn't herself, because the Toni I know would have never left me on a dark road or with a house full of strangers. She wouldn't have did that.
Crystal Johns is the last person known to have seen Toni. That night, the two women had last been at the house of Willie Green, a professional basketball player on the Philadelphia 76ers.
I contacted Mr. Willie Green to see if he could shed some light on what happened. Mr. Green gave the same account of the night that Miss Johns had given.
There were never any suspects in the case. There was never any indication of foul play. There was no person of interest, really, that jumped out at us during any phase of the investigation.
Despite Willie and Crystal's cooperation with authorities, rumors of foul play begin to circulate.
Toni's disappearance received a lot of local media coverage, both on TV and also on the internet. And unfortunately, in some of this coverage, Crystal was described or was portrayed to be someone who was hiding something or who was involved in something happening to her friend.
The blog just said that me and the Greens disposed of Toni, that I'm withholding information, all types of stuff that was not true. It was almost like harassment. The one person that wants to find her friend and that took it serious from day one is being harassed.
After several weeks of negative attention, Crystal calls the Lower Merion Police Department and requests to take a polygraph test.
Crystal asked to take a polygraph. We were fairly convinced that her information was accurate. However, she wanted to do it because there was so much pressure on her that she may have had something to do with Toni's disappearance.
I passed with flying colors. I passed. I didn't lie about anything. There's nothing I withheld at all. And I went and I got something to eat for the first time in a very long time. I finally had my appetite back.
Toni Lee Sharpless has been missing for 3 weeks. After extensive searching and interviews, all leads grow cold until suddenly there's movement in the case.
On September 14th, 2009, I was contacted by the New Jersey State Police that on September 8th, their vehicle had recorded Toni Sharpless's car in the city of Camden.
Camden, New Jersey lies directly across the river from Philadelphia. It's only a 20-minute drive from where Toni was last seen.
It was the first information we had since Toni went missing that she and her car was moving. It was in the area. It was somewhere.
According to the Camden Police Department, Toni's car was recorded by a piece of technology called a license plate reader.
The license plate reader is a police vehicle that's equipped with a camera system that automatically runs vehicle registration plates through the computer system. It runs every tag that it passes, that it captures on this video system.
But the reader that recorded Toni's license plate number was in an unmanned vehicle.
If there's a police officer in the vehicle at the time that a vehicle registration plate is hit upon, there's an alarm in the vehicle, and the police officer would know then to look for this vehicle. Unfortunately, in Toni's case, the registration plate that was read, it happened at a time that the police vehicle was parked. So the information didn't come forth for several days.
To make up for lost time, the Lower Merion Police Department get right to work pursuing the lead.
What we did was we joined forces with Camden Police Department and the New Jersey State Police, and they conducted citywide searches for that car, particularly concentrated in that area.
For Toni's family, the development in Camden, a city known for its high crime areas, makes them very uneasy.
When I heard that her car was spotted in Camden, I knew something was definitely wrong. We had recently went to a concert in Camden, and she just wanted to get out of there because we know it's not a good area.
It told me that either she wasn't in that car, or if she was, she may have been in the trunk of the car, because she would never go to Camden on her own, not willingly anyway.
While friends and family believe that Tony has almost certainly met with foul play, the authorities quietly develop a second theory.
It was reported to us that Tony may have had an addiction problem earlier in her life. The fact that her license plate was red in Camden worried us, because if you knew where to buy drugs, that would be one of the areas to go.
But police are unable to determine if Tony has bought drugs in Camden before.
Everybody was asking me about drugs and what drugs was she on, and I don't do drugs. And if she was on any drugs, I didn't know of them, and I would definitely volunteer that information.
As a result of the investigation, we certainly became aware of almost all aspects of Tony's life.
I was told through her family and through her friends that Tony did have a history of drug abuse. Yes, the area where the car was seen, high prostitution, high heroin.
She suffered with some past demons, but as of the time of the incident, it appeared that she had had her life in order.
As the Camden lead goes nowhere and no new information surfaces, the search for Tony Lee Sharpless begins to stall.
It is very hard in a case like this. There's very little information here. I mean, really what we have is a girl left the township at 5 o'clock in the morning drunk and angry and was last seen by her friend. And the car, we believe, was in Camden several days later.
Across town, a private investigator hears Tony's case on the news for the first time and has a strong premonition.
For what it's worth, I got a flash of something and I yelled at the television. She's very much alive.
Coming up, a new theory about Tony's whereabouts generates hope and fear.
I know it's far-fetched to a lot of people, but in my world, that happens all the time.
It's been a month since Tony Lee Sharpless drove away from a gathering in Gladwin, Pennsylvania. The only clue in the case that has surfaced is a license plate hit in Camden, New Jersey. After that, both Tony and her vehicle appear to have vanished. But now, private investigator Eileen Law thinks she knows what has happened to Tony.
My instinct told me that, one, that she was alive, and two, that drugs were involved somehow.
Like many in the area, Eileen is aware of the recent bust of a sex trafficking ring in New Jersey.
Prosecutors say this man, who called himself Prince, enslaved young women and forced them into a life of hell.
Just 1 month earlier, Alan E. Brown Jr. was arrested for prostituting dozens of young women from Newark to Atlantic City.
This man is one of thousands of men all across the country who prey upon young women, anywhere from 12 to 50. And what they do is go to bus stations, train stations, nightclubs, and look for young women who seem distressed in some way.
Once they were forced into his stable of prostitutes, they were subjected to beatings, to isolation from others, to coercion. They were locked inside apartments.
He would take their cell phones and their credit cards and force drugs on them. I know it's far-fetched to a lot of people, but in my world, that happens all the time.
Although Eileen believes that Tony may have fallen victim to this type of crime, she has no facts to support her hunch. It is only when she meets Tony's family for the first time that she realizes how right she may be.
My daughter Candy and I went to meet with her. She had asked me just basic questions like the police did.
It was a lot of paperwork, a lot of questioning. Where was she last seen? What was she driving? When was the missing persons report filed?
Almost immediately, Eileen learns of several details that confirm her fears.
When Tony left that night with her friend, she had less than a quarter of a tank of gas. So when you do the mileage, there's just no way that she would be able to get home. I believe that somewhere along the expressway in Philadelphia, she ran out of gas. And that was the beginning of the end.
At the conclusion of her first meeting with Donna and Candy, Eileen offers her services to find Tony for free. She begins work right away to get the story of the missing nurse and mother back into the media.
I believe that she is in a weakened state. We need to get her picture out there.
Almost immediately, there are sightings of women believed to be Tony.
When that aired, by the time I got back to the office, there was a flood of calls. The first sightings were in the city of Lancaster, where Tony was a nurse at Lancaster General Hospital, and a lot of them used the phrase that she was distraught or distressed.
As Eileen follows up each lead, Tony's family waits anxiously, wondering if Tony has really been found.
There was one sighting in particular that got me anxious in Lancaster County, and that's one where the person was almost sure it was her to the point he wanted to get off the bus and go grab her. And the description of her, the description of the clothes, everything matched.
But none of the sightings lead to Tony. After 1 week, the calls from Lancaster stop. Then, another call comes in.
I got a call from a man, and he said that he drove trucks to Camden, New Jersey. And he said that he believed he saw Tony.
Over the next 3 days, there are several more reports of sightings in Camden. Because Tony's car was also seen there, Eileen thinks the chances of finding her are high. But the landscape of the area makes searching for Tony difficult.
There's a big drug trade in the city of Camden. There are sexual favors that you'll see happen right in alleys in broad daylight. You'll see drugs change hands. You'll see pimps watching very carefully, and you'll see some of the girls get very nervous about talking with me.
Tony's friend Crystal helps out with the search as well.
We went to Camden and was handing out flyers. A lot of the girls there, after a few weeks of prostitution and drugs, they probably are unrecognizable to their own family members. It's that bad.
Eileen and Crystal speak to dozens of people, but no one can definitively prove that Tony is there. Then, just as they did in Lancaster, the sightings stop and begin a week later elsewhere.
There were a couple sightings in Philadelphia. Same thing. It was always, there was a cluster up here, and then it would stop for a couple days. Many of the sightings of Tony described her being with a man, and it told me that someone was moving Tony around.
While Eileen feels strongly that Tony may be the victim of sex trafficking, the authorities on the case see it differently.
While that exists in places in this country, certainly the rarity in this area, and we never had any indication that that was a viable angle for this investigation to take.
But with little else to go on, Tony's loved ones can't help but take the theory seriously.
I think it's a strong possibility. I really do. It's real. It's in America and it's here. It's not good. It's not good. Whatever happened to my friend is not good.
I think that she is a very strong person. She's a fighter. She's a leader, and that if she had the opportunity to get away, she would do that.
Although Tony's loved ones want to believe she is alive, the possibility gives them little comfort.
If Tony did drive on 76, which went into Camden, she could have got carjacked, been drugged up, held for prostitution. We don't know at this point, but that's our theories. I keep thinking, is she okay? Is she in her right mind? Is she cold? Is she hot? Is she hungry? Is she tired? Is she sleeping right? Because I don't know where she's at. It's such an empty feeling. It's hard to describe.